yes, go ahead and talk to the planning commission, whatever it might be about it. But it gives you, as the elected body, the oversight power. So it is the amendment as proposed is written that way. And I think that makes the most sense for the EAC or any of the bodies that you appoint. They really should be coming back to the Board of Supervisors for direction as to where to go once they have a recommendation. So if you want to move ahead, it would be a motion to authorize advertising of the amendment to the EAC ordinance as proposed.
Is that Rachel? Has the EAC, is the EAC okay with this proposed amendment?
At our meeting, we voted to go with New Hanover's language.
Is that?
And it is mainly New Hanover's language, but I've modified it a little bit so that instead of coming up with a great idea and just going out to other agencies, you'll come up with that great idea and then come back to the Board of Supervisors.
That was always our intention. I think there was miscommunication with language about other agencies. We're an advisory committee.
Good.
So that means the EAC is okay with the proposed amendment?
I believe so. Can you provide us with any differences from the New Hanover amendment that you put into the new language?
Do you want a copy of that so you can, for your meeting?
That would be great.
Before we go ahead and move forward with it?
Yeah.
How would that be?
That would be great, because we read the New Hanover language, we were okay with that, we just requested any changes, and give it to us, so we just reviewed it.
Yeah, and the change, I'll have it here, the township manager will give it to you, but it really is, it follows the main part of New Hanover's ordinance, except it says instead of going directly out to other agencies, that you come back to the Board of Supervisors. So that's the only change, which sounds like it'd be consistent with your intent anyhow.
So, it's okay, you're gonna get this for your meeting
Yes.
before we vote on it, okay? Okay.
So we'll table that.
We're gonna table.
And then my other item was the professional services agreement for Gentera Corporation. We prepared that, it's out to them, but I don't have that back from them yet, so I suggest we table that until we get that. And that's all I have, thank you.
Planning Commission. Question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I had a question for Mr. Bellar.
Warren?
Warren Jacobs from Fulmer Road. At the last meeting, I brought up a question for you, and you weren't able to give me a complete answer, and it was about whether there's a state law that would supersede and make our own saldo ordinance not be valid. And it was the particular ordinance was the issue about stormwater management systems having to be complete before we were able to issue use and occupancy permits. And I wonder if since the last meeting you were able to look into that and see if there actually are any such state laws that would be counter our law.
So, yeah, I apologize because I thought I had answered that, but to my mind, you have the MPC, which is the enabling legislation for all municipalities. But
Could you please speak into the microphone?
Sure. You have the MPC, which is the enabling legislation that allows all municipalities to adopt a salary. But then separately, you have areas where bodies such as the Department of Environmental Protection Act, and they have their local actor, which is the Montgomery County Conservation District. And they certainly enforce when it comes to stormwater management. So to that extent, DEP and the Conservation District would argue that local municipalities are preempted in that area. Now, what happens with this municipality, like most municipalities, is that there's an overlap, an intersection of our stormwater management ordinance with state or county protections. And in fact, this township, like every other township, this county, like just about every other county, was told by the DEP to enact a stormwater management ordinance years back. So they essentially imposed that on us. So to get back to your question, which was, what if our ordinance says X and the state ordinance says Y? Then who controls? Is that your question?
What our ordinance says is that it doesn't necessarily, I don't know if it says who is responsible for certifying that the stormwater management is complete, but it says that it needs to be complete and inspected before we issue UNOs. Is there anything that would, an actual law that would prohibit us from being able to enforce that?
I don't, other than the preemption argument that exists out there, I think the way to approach it is when there's the estimate of probable costs that lists the various public improvements, and usually quasi-public improvements such as a basin might not be dedicated to the township, but it certainly is for the benefit of the residents and the township. That those items are included on the estimate of probable costs for which the developer posts security.
Right.
Estimate. What we're doing in other municipalities, and I suggest that we do here, we haven't had the opportunity yet, Carol and I, to interact for just this issue, but we will, is to allow for release of some of the monies that are escrowed when it comes to something like the basin, but to hold in reserve some portion, be it 50% or whatever the engineer thinks is right, to hold in reserve, because as you know, what happens is, as a development first comes in, there are certain improvements created, base coat of streets, some stormwater management basins. But it's only as the development gets built out and all the impervious is in place that we really will find out whether the basins do the job that they're intended. So the idea would be to hold back some of the money associated with that basin until the end of the job, until we know that it works.
Warren, not to interrupt you, I think what you're asking is who would really sign off on that it's correct at the end?
What I'm really asking
Yeah, okay.
is what happens, it would seem like the purpose of our ordinance is to make sure that because the stormwater management system that's in place now is temporary, and it isn't designed to hold the whole amount of water back that the completed final system is, our ordinance wants to make sure that does get complete, and therefore assures that by not allowing us to give out use and occupancy permits. And then the thing that brought this to my mind was when we were at the planning commission meeting, and people were starting to talk about how, well, what if this project really drags on? And you yourself stood up and said something to that effect. You thought that the project might be behind schedule for some reason, with the developer running into problems that weren't anticipated. And who knows, how long could it possibly drag on? So if something happens, a developer goes under or can't complete the project or something like that, we either have to deal with the stormwater management not being able to contain the amount of water that it's supposed to, or else the township's going to be on the hook to fix it.
All right. The one that has worked on up in Kutztown, we're understood that the engineer that designed that has to sign off on that when it's completed and finished.
Right.
Okay? Or if he doesn't, you have to find an engineer that will sign off on it, that it is completed and correct.
Right, and our ordinance specifically states that we can't issue UNOs until that happens. It's cut and dry in our ordinance. So my question is there some other law that would make it so that we cannot enforce our ordinance, or if we're not going to enforce that ordinance, is that by choice?
I suspect, without having it in front of me, that the ordinance reads that UNOs can be withheld if it appears that the stormwater is not working, as opposed to we're not allowed to issue. Legal technicality. But the bottom line is, you correctly are worried about those situations where a developer goes under and perhaps the stormwater management system is not yet complete. And that's why there is the estimate of probable cost with the escrow that's posted. That's what the township can pursue in order to have the money.
Mr. Bowler, I
sufficient to
understand that. I
complete.
understand the process, the escrow. I understand also that if the project doesn't get completed, we're supposed to increase the amount of escrow that we take as the project goes on. But that still doesn't get to the answer to my question. The ordinance, our ordinance is absolutely cut and dry. Is our ordinance valid or not?
Yeah, I do not have it in front of me, but it's usually going to be a question of the context. How is it that the developer has not completed the plan for stormwater management that was approved by the township? So it's going to be one of those things where Carol and I would have to put our heads together if we found an issue, if the issue arose, and then bring it to the attention of the board.
The ordinance says specifically, cut and dry, that it's supposed to be the final completion and inspection before we issue the UNO.
Carol, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the life of a development, there is stormwater management that is installed. Houses are built, UNOs are issued, and then there are times where the stormwater management is addressed again.
Yes, so the situation out there right now is there are sediment basins that capture runoff from that development, settle out the silt that might be in that runoff, and then release it. The final design would be stormwater detention basins, which are set up differently. They're going to catch flow and slowly release it to mimic the flow pre-development. That's one component of the stormwater management system in that development. There are other components, including amended soil mixes on each parcel. There are other components to the post-construction stormwater management. But those final stormwater management basins can't be finished until all the contributing areas have been stabilized. That comes from DEP and the Conservation District. They say until all the contributing areas are stabilized, those remain as sediment basins to make sure that the water is filtered before it leaves the site. So by the terms of their federal and state NPDES permit, they can't convert those sediment basins to detention basins until all those homes are built and the contributing areas stabilized.
I think,
Your name?
Rachel Hendricks. Rachel Hendricks, 29 Aspen Lane. I think what Warren's concern is and don't quote me because I wasn't here, I believe that the ordinance may have been written before post-construction state regulations or guidance was given in 2010. So maybe it might be advantageous for the township to look at the ordinance and maybe update it. I understand that's not how developments are built. However, excellent explanation as to how there's an accident in post-construction. It just, I don't think anyone wants to see the township liable houses or anything like that for our current ordinance.
Bob Burns, Ingerville Road. I think part of the problem is where, as Mark states, that the storm sewer has to be in. The problem is, out there right now, only a third of the development is in. So 2/3 of the development, the roads and structures aren't in, and stormwater isn't in, the sanitary is not in. So it's not just the basins. And I think what we're getting at is, unless all the storm inlets, piping, and everything is completed, then no UNOs should be issued. I mean, I think a lot of us understand how the basins work, and over time, they get converted from one to the other. That's understandable. But when you have 5 homes under construction right now, and only a third of the infrastructure is put in, the rest of the infrastructure is not in.
It's not.
So if all the storm infrastructure was in, then maybe they should get a UNO, but that's not the case right now.
Chuck, yeah, I think kind of what Rachel just said. I think the point is we have an ordinance that says one thing very briefly, and the situation we all know is more complicated, so we probably need to do some work.
I agree.
I think that's what we're
Because
talking about.
in a housing development, as they build houses, they build one at a time, or 2 or 3. It's not completed, and you cannot finish your basin work and your final step to the water management until everything's paved, sodded, grass grown, because it just happened up there in this.
So it may be that, whether Carol suggests some alternate language with the solicitor, Carol would, maybe that's where it has to be.
And I'll actually build on what Chuck just said, because you're under the MS4 permit here in Lower Frederick Township. And under the terms of this current MS4 permit, during this permit cycle, the township is actually required to update the stormwater ordinance to match a 2022 ordinance that DEP has put out there as a model. So the Planning Commission will have some work to do. We're actually required to revisit the stormwater management ordinance in this permit cycle, so in the next couple of years, and make sure that it's in compliance with the 2022 model ordinance.
So just to clarify, Carol, are you saying that this process should begin in planning commission or elsewhere? Process of ordinance.
Sure. Typically, it would be the planning commission that reviews it and then recommends it forward to the board. Obviously, I would need to bring that information to the planning commission based on the DEP model. So we can put that on the to-do list. It might not be this month, but it certainly should be on the to-do list for a couple of months.
Jackie?
Dr. Neil, 105 Schlenk Road. So I think to take that conversation further, it was not just to be in line with all the new, the laws that you clearly stated, but also when the project actually is done, first of all, they sold all their houses, then they finally, they convert all the basins to the design. Do we have any teeth if they didn't convert them to the design spec, or if the design spec is not working? So do we have any teeth or any avenue to have them come back? So that's the other thing we want to prevent. I mean, we're getting weird rainstorms and all this kind of stuff. What do we have, to keep money in escrow longer, larger amounts or something because of the tumultuous weather, and making sure that after every house is sold, we still have teeth to ensure they built it to spec and that spec is working?
So a couple of layers to that answer, if I might jump in. So the first is the escrow requirement that our solicitor mentioned, and that escrow would not be fully released until everything's completed, certified, and the NPDES permit is closed. And for an applicant to file an NPDES termination notice with the state, they're going to have to document that all the stormwater management facilities are in compliance with all the design, the volumes and that they're functioning. That's one of the advantages of having this under an NPDES permit, is that we're just a tiny one. Once that happens, once the escrow project is closed, we say, okay, we have to release the escrow, they've completed all the improvements, a maintenance bond goes into place. And that would normally be, solicitor will correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's 15% of the original construction escrow. So if their original construction escrow was $2 million, 15% of that is going to remain in a maintenance bond for 18 months. So we've got another year and a half of seeing how things work and having a bond to go against if there's a problem out
Bob Burns, Interville Road. At the last meeting, we had brought up that once it gets past the year, that the township can go ahead and add that 10%, which I think I asked you guys that you would take a look at that to increase the retainage. So I know we're past the year period of time. Is that something that the board has to vote on, or does Carol just go ahead and do that automatically as it were?
We would have to look into that.
there. Yes, I thank you for reminding me of that, and I'll go over that with the solicitor in coming weeks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Linda Jansen, Simmons Road. Just a quick question to go back to Solicitor Belvoir. You said that you were tabling the professional service contract for the Gentera Corporation. What is that professional service contract for?
For a potential development, they've asked that there be some discussion, some plan review, and so before the township gets involved with any developer, we propose a professional services agreement to cover the cost of the consultant.
Review and legal stuff. What parcels are they proposing to develop?
I don't have that info. I think there's 3 separate ones. And I don't have tax ID numbers.
Names? Do you have an area in the township they may be located in?
And it's the Rose Farm, it's the Rose Farm, and it's Barry Agencies.
Thank you. And pardon me, one last question. All of those parcels that you just named, they were zoned R1 in our rural resource area, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Planning Commission?
All in favor? Okay, Planning Commission, in our July meeting, we continued our discussion and revision of our subdivision and development ordinance as it relates to landscaping. We're fortunate to have Warren Jacobs working with us. Primarily the things that we were looking at, we're updating our plant list so that we don't have invasive species on our plant list anymore. We were trying to make it a little bit more flexible, so if there are things on the list that, how would you say it, the things that aren't on the list but they're still appropriate, that there's a mechanism for those things to be addressed through the town. And also, most importantly, is that Warren worked really hard to come up with a really practical way of doing the best practices in terms of installation of trees, selection of stock, things like that,